The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. How is everyone doing today? And as I say, thank you very much for turning up. I hope you find this useful. We'll just do the usual sound check at the start. Can you confirm that you can see my screen? You should be able to see a Convertri funnel with a single page in it that's called Coffee, and you should be able to hear me all right. So, okay, I've got a great from Richard, all okay from another Richard. Hey Karen, all good from Joel. All good from Ken, yes from Jim and Jerome. Excellent. Excellent. Everything seems to be working well. So this is our usual getting started webinar. The idea of this webinar is to give people who, like maybe you've only just signed up to Convertri, maybe you've had it for a little while, but you've just not had the time to get into it. The idea is to give you a head start, get you going, show you, give you a quick demo on how the app works, just run you through the stuff you can do with the editor. So first of all, I will introduce myself for everyone who hasn't been to one of these before. I'm Neil. I'm one of the co-founders. If we go to the Convertri website, this here is our About Us page. You can see I'm the one at the back in that rather fetching hat. So what we are going to do on this call is we're going to build a simple lead funnel straight from scratch. And what I mean by that is a squeeze page where we'll be capturing a name and an email. We're going to build a funnel such that someone can come to this page, they can sign up, they will be added to our list, they'll be redirected to our thank you page, and from that thank you page, they will be able to download the lead magnet that we promised. So it's a simple funnel, but it'll be like a complete unit. It'll be live by the time we're done. After that, I'm going to run through a few little editor hacks. I use Convertri quite a lot, both for business stuff and just for my own projects as well. And because I've used it quite a lot, I've got quite a lot of experience at using the editor. I know my way around it quite well. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that I do to make building in the editor easier, like a few of the features that you might not have discovered, even if you have been using Convertri for a little bit. And the final thing we're going to do is we are just going to throw the floor open to a general question and answer session. So I will hang around for either until you run out of questions or I run out of voice, whichever of those happens first. And you can ask me anything you want about Convertri, about marketing, or about anything else, I guess. If you want to ask me questions about the Whiskey Rebellion in 1781, you are more than welcome to do so. I just can't promise I'm going to have the answers. So before we get into it, can I just check what kind of, how experienced do you feel like you are with Convertri at the moment? On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you've barely touched it and 10 is you think you're a real expert. How good do you think you are? Cool. We've got a few 4s in there. 0, 1. 6 from Ken. I think you're the expert on this call, Ken. Cool, excellent. So that sounds good. I'll try and keep things at a obviously I'll try and keep things at a relatively simple level. I will try and go fairly slowly so you can see easily what I'm doing. If you do need me to slow down at any point, then please do drop a comment in the chat. If you want to see anything again, do the same thing. Drop a question in the chat. I will keep half an eye on it as we go through. So if you've got a question about what I'm doing, I'll try and get to it at the time. Only thing I would ask is if you've got a question that that isn't related to the demo you're looking at the moment, do me a favor and just save it until the end. So when we're asking the general questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything you come up with. it'll just be easier if we don't get sidetracked while we're doing the actual demo. In fact, Jerome is saying, you mentioned a step-by-step guide. Can you show us that? I can do better than that. I can give you the link where you can download it. That was on the thank you page, I believe. And that does actually remind me, that is a good point. We are doing something a bit different on this call that we haven't done before. Apparently GoToWebinar doesn't like sending that. Let's try. No, that's because I'm putting it in the wrong box like an idiot. Okay, there we are. That link should have just gone in chat to everyone. Let's say we are trying something different on this call. We had a suggestion a few weeks ago where one of the people on the call, I don't remember who it was, I'm afraid. So if you're here at the moment, it was a great idea. I'm sorry, I can't give you credit. One of the people on the call suggested that we put together a guide where people can follow along, like the demo that I'm doing on the call. So if you've got a big enough screen, like you can try and follow along, like as I'm doing it. You can try it on your own Convertri account, or if you want, you can wait until the replay, and like you can just play the replay and try and do the same thing, like following the steps in that guide. So that link I just sent you has a step-by-step guide of what we'll be doing in this demonstration, and it also includes all the assets that I'm going to be using. So you can use those in your own Convertri account. You can use them the same way I'm going to use them. Feel free to follow along on the call. You might find it a bit easier on the replay, but if you want to follow along on the call, then do feel free. And I'll be very interested to see how that works. Daniel's asking, will a replay be available? Yes, a replay will be available. We are recording this call at the moment. It will go in the knowledge base with the rest of them. I'll just show you where that is. So this is our knowledge base at help.convertri.com. If you go to the Getting Started Webinars section, then you'll see this is a list of all the webinars like this we've run in the past. So we can click on any one of those. This is the most recent one, and you'll see the replay is there with a quick summary of the kind of things that get covered in it. So this call is being recorded. It will go up like in a post in the knowledge base in the same place. So you'll be able to sort it there. And if for any reason the recording doesn't work, which they don't occasionally, like 99 times out of 100 it works fine. Occasionally there is a glitch. And if we are the 1 in 100 times where there is a glitch, then you can have a look at one of the past replays. There'll be different questions that get asked, but it's the same demonstration. So you'll be able to follow along with one of those just as easily. Okay, so let's get on. The page we're going to build is this one, or at least one that's kind of like this one. See, it's a simple squeeze page in the weight loss niche. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank page by clicking New Page up here. Now this opens our template selector with all the different pages in it, and you can see there's quite a lot to choose from here. You can preview any of the templates as well by clicking on the preview link for them, and you can have a look at them before you decide to use them. We're not going to use a template for this demonstration. We're going to build completely from scratch, and the reason for that is that for one thing, I enjoy it a bit more. I quite like building pages in Convertri, but also it's easier when we're building a page from scratch to really show you what the editor can do. I certainly find that when I'm talking to people who have used Convertri, once they've got a bit of experience, they generally prefer creating pages from scratch because you can just get exactly what you're looking for. So to do that, we're going to click on Create a Page from Scratch, and we're going to call it Opt-in. So we have our blank page. We'll click on Edit Page to go into the editor. So here we have our blank Convertri canvas. And so the first thing we're going to do, if we just go to our template, I guess, page, like the page we're kind of mimicking, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up this big background image. And then we're going to set up these panels on either side that form like the top and bottom of the page. So we're getting like the backdrop first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag on image. Now you can see I've got this image in the selector already. I'm not actually going to take it from here. I'm going to delete this just so I can show you the upload process. Because you can upload any of your own images. And there'll be a brief pause while I find the file, which a sensible person would have had sorted out before they started the call. Unfortunately, you've got me. So I'm just going to drag that file on from my machine straight onto the image manager, and you can see that's uploading there now. Ken's asking, do we have the access to the same amount of templates at all account levels? Because you can see that I'm on an agency account, because on a screen I'll show you in a bit, you can see there's a little tag at the bottom left of the screen which says agency on it. Not every account has all those templates, but most of them do. Pro and agency both have all of the templates all the templates in the selector. Standard accounts have, I believe, a choice of 50 plus the basic funnel templates. So there's probably about 80 page templates in all. So there's still quite a few to choose from. So we'll just select this image. And we'll stick that on the screen. Thomas is asking, what do the two lines in the middle of the page mean? And by that, this cyan guideline to the left, which I'm just butting the image up against here, and the one to the right over here. Now, these are our page width guidelines. These are set by default to be 960 pixels wide. You can change this if you want in the display menu. So if we want it to make 1080, we can just adjust that to 1080 and they get a bit wider. Whoops. Idiot child deleting his image. Just put that back. And these are just guidelines. Like, it doesn't matter where you put the image on the page. Like, I can put it over here. It's still going to be published. We just have these guidelines here because if you put everything within these guidelines, then it will, like, all your elements will show up on pretty much every monitor. These guidelines are actually set like quite aggressively at the moment. When we first released the app, 960 was a good guideline, like for a width to fit on most monitors. These days, monitors are rather larger. I mean, to be honest, you can go anywhere up to like 1280, and be safe for seeing all your elements on the screen at once. Which is the reason that we gave you the option of enlarging them if you want. I still tend to keep it to 960 because I just like that kind of page width, but you don't need to use it. Mariana is saying that she has no sound. Is everyone else hearing me okay? Yeah, everyone else seems to be fine. Okay, I'm sorry, Mariana. I'm not sure what the problem is, but you will be able to catch the replay when it's up. So what we're going to do with this image is I'm going to make it full width by clicking this button up here in the Quick Actions toolbar. And then we can just drag the size to make it look like how we want. Now I'm not going to try and get an exact copy of this page here. Like I'm just going to get something that, like, we're going to use the same assets, but I'm just going to make it look kind of like it. Like I'm not going to worry too much about getting the exact image height or like the exact color match, like on these panels. Because one of the ways that I quite like, one of the ways that I find quite good for designing with Convertri is basically just to do it by eye. Like I don't need to know a precise size for this image. I can just make it, like I can make it taller, I can make it shallower until I think it looks good. Like I can squeeze this up if I don't want quite as much of her on the page. If I decide I want a bit more, I just drag the image a bit bigger until it's an amount I like. And I think that will do fine. Next, we're going to do the panels at the top and the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to drag on a panel element from the Elements toolbar. And you'll see this comes up in our like default plain gray. But we like to choose like a fairly neutral color just when it goes on there. Obviously, this is easily changeable, and I will show you how in just a minute. We're going to make that full width again. And we're going to push this one right to the top of the page. And then use these drag handles to drag it to size. And you can see as I approach, you can see the snap line. So we can get it just snapping to the edge of the other element. Now we are going to change the background color. And we do that by going to the background tab in the properties panel with this element selected. We click on background fill. And we can change the color here to whatever we want. And you can see as we drag the handle around the page, you can see it update live in the editor. So again, you don't have to like try and work out what color will look good. You can just move it around until you like the look of it. Now we were going for a kind of orangey beigey thing, so I'm going to shove the slider up to the orange area, and that's it was maybe a bit paler, a bit more like that. Yeah, I think that's close enough. So now we'll hit select, and we have that color in. Now I want another one of these panels at the bottom, and to avoid having to find the same color to go through that again, I'm just going to click the clone button in the quick actions toolbar, and that will get a complete copy. We'll drag that down, snap that one to the bottom of the image, and we'll make this one a bit wider because we want room for the privacy policy link in there. So we now have the backdrop for the page, and indeed we're pretty much done. Ken's saying that 80% of traffic is on mobile. Yeah, that's a very good point. A lot of traffic is mobile these days, which is like sorted out in a different area of Convertri. We'll be seeing that a bit later in the demo. In terms of the optimum size for mobile, there's not really an optimum size for mobile because the screen sizes are so different. That's why on a mobile screen, Convertri will take what you give it and it will just scale it to the size of the mobile screen that's being used. I'll go into this in a bit more detail when we go to sort out the mobile view of this page. But basically, everything you see in the mobile editor will always be what a user sees on their screen. Ken's also asking, why do we use the element for the top and the bottom, so these panels? Like, what's the practical use of it? To be honest, this is just a design decision. You don't need it at all. I'm building it this way because I quite like having these borders on the page. The bottom one has a bit of practical use in that I like having like the privacy policy link, terms of service, contact us if you're going to use that kind of thing. I like having them like a bit out of the way from the main focus of the page. And I'll usually put them in a footer like this. But it's certainly not something that you have to use. Like there's plenty of other ways to do that. Richard's asking, is the bottom line the fold line? So yes, this horizontal line here. So I'll just drag up this panel just so it's butting against it so everyone can see it. So that there is a marker of the fold line, and that's set at 560 pixels, which is again fairly aggressive. Like, to be honest, on pretty much every screen, you've got another 100 pixels or so, like, before you have to worry about things being like below the fold. But if you put them, any elements you put above this line will definitely be visible on the screen on like virtually any monitor. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do, if we go back to our demo page, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make this panel with all the content on it. So first thing I'm going to do with this is we're just going to drag another panel element onto the screen, and we'll make it like roughly the right size. Now, I'm not worrying too much about the sizing. I'm not worrying too much about the position at the moment. I'm just getting the elements on the screen. Sorting out the precise positioning, we'll do all that once all the elements are in. And next we are going to want some text. So we'll do that by dragging on a text element from the toolbar. And to add text into it, we just click into the element so you can see the little cursor flashing there. And we'll just type straight onto the screen. And we won't hold down the Shift key when we're typing a 7 because that doesn't work. Okay, and now we need another one for the body text. Let's see if I can remember this. So, tired of trying to stick to a diet. Don't worry, so are we. These 7 top tips will help you look and feel great without needing to starve yourself for 20 hours a day. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, the spirit's there, but most of the words aren't entirely the same. Doesn't really matter. Like I say, we're not trying to do it exact. Every time I try and like remember it straight off, haven't managed it once yet. Now we need another couple of text elements for the anti-spam text. And one to just say, enter your details below. Yep, your details are safe with us. We will never spam you. Okay, so now we've got the text on the page. We need to make it look good. And we can do this. I mean, we can do it at the individual element level. We can highlight the text, and then you'll see the Quick Actions toolbar changes to the text toolbar. And we can do things like we can change the alignment. We can add like bold, italic, underline. We can change the font and the size and the color. But I prefer to do this through default styles rather than doing it at the element level. And to do that, we go to the page menu and go to default text styles option here. And the reason I like doing this through default text styles is it lets you change all the elements at once. And that means updating the design like afterwards is far easier. This is particularly useful if you're trying to edit one of our templates. They will generally use default styles. So if you like the general idea of a template, but maybe you've got a set font you want to use, like maybe it's a brand thing, or maybe there's just one you really like the look of, rather than changing every individual element, you can just go into the default styles. You can change the font here, and that will update every text element on the page so you can see like how it looks. So let's go with Lato. for the font, we'll leave the font size at 16. I'm going to up the line spacing. I quite like having like a fair amount of line spacing in my paragraphs because I think that makes the text a lot easier to read. And the easier it is to read, like the more people are actually going to read it. Like it does actually make quite a difference to conversions. So we're going to up that to 1.6. And we'll hit done. And you can see all of these have now updated. And what this means is if we decide, like, actually, you know, I don't like Lato, I'm going to want to try something else. We can go back into default styles. We can choose a different font. So we can choose, no, we can choose Aclonica. Aclonica? Yeah. Hit done. And again, everything has changed. Now, we really don't want to use a font like that. We want one that's easy to read. So we're going to go back to Lato. But it's an easy way of updating your page to see how the changes happen or see how the changes work. So we'll put that back on Lato. We are also going to set up a heading 1 style. And for this style, we're going to use Noto Sans. This is going to be like our headline style. I'm going to take the font size down a bit because we're only using a small panel. So I'm going to make that 24. I'm going to keep the line space as 1.2 in my heading. And the reason for that is that I quite like the headlines to have a bit more punch and keeping the lines a bit closer together, like they just have a bit more impact. And when it's like just a headline as opposed to a whole bit of body text, it doesn't really matter that it's a little bit harder to read because there's just not as much of it on the page. So we'll hit done. And you see, I've set up that heading 1 style, but it hasn't actually changed the page at all. And that's because none of the text elements are currently using that style like for their text. So we can change that by clicking into the text element we want to use. We'll go into More, and we'll select heading 1 here. And that has now updated to the style that we set. One other thing we're going to do with this text is we are going to make this text and the spam text down here a bit smaller. So we're going to change that to 12. And we're going to center it. And I'm not doing this with default styles because I don't want all the text on the page to have this feature. I just want these boxes to do it. So we've got our text on, and the arrangement isn't very good at the moment. Like these bits are a bit close together. Like these are probably a bit far apart. But we will sort out all of that once all the other elements are on, so including the form. Can I just check, is everyone following me so far? Is there anything you would like to see again? Is there anything you would like me to explain again? Okay, Daly's saying all good from Richard, good from Marcia, Karen, excellent. Okay, cool, good to know, good to know. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get the form on the page. And to do that, we go to the Form Elements menu in the Elements toolbar. And when I click on this, I'm going to get a load more options, and you can see that by these 3 dots, which are at the side. So I'm going to click that, and I can see the different options available. We want to capture the first name and the email. So I'm going to drag these fields on. You're not just limited to these bits of information you can capture. If you want to capture something custom, you can use like a basic text input and you can set the type yourself. But for these basic forms, you don't really need anything beyond these 2 bits. So we'll add that and we'll throw on a submit button. And we'll just adjust these styles a bit. So if we go to Input Properties in the Properties panel, you can see we can update the placeholder text if we want. So if we want that to just say name, then we can like just delete first part and you can see it updates in the editor there. We can change that to full name, and you see that updates here as well. I'm going to leave it as first. I'm going to change the font family to Lato again, just to match my body text. It's a good idea to not use too many fonts on a page. Like one headline, the general rule is like one headline font, one body text font, and one like pull-out font. So like one special font for just very small amounts of key information, that kind of thing. That is a trick I was told by our head designer, who kind of knows his stuff. It's something I've used ever since and repeat to people to try and sound smart. And we're going to take the font size down a bit as well. We'll do the same again on this other input. So Lato and 14. On the button, in button settings, we're going to change the label. We're going to change that to say download now. And again, we're going to change the font. Now this would be quite a good place for that like third pull-out font if you want. I'm not going to use one on here. I'm going to use Noto again to match the headline, and we'll make that bold. So now we have all the elements on. We want to arrange them properly. So the first thing we're going to do is get everything centered. So easiest way to do that is select this backing container, so this backing gray panel. Now we'll go to the alignment options in the Quick Actions toolbar. And you'll see we have a load of different options that we can use. The one we want to use here is center align. By clicking that, that automatically centers all of the elements within that container. So everything just snaps into place. Now I'm going to want these fields moved down a bit. So I'm going to hold down Shift, select all of those, and we'll just drag them down. You can use these alignment options as well. Like I've kind of snapped these into place already, so they're like horizontally aligned. But you can also use these alignment options to get things that are actually quite out of whack into space pretty quickly. So if we said, let's say we had, let's say this was over there, and that was up here. We can arrange these all like nice and evenly just by selecting every one. So again, hold down Shift, select each. Now we'll go to our alignment options. We'll left align. That will just snap them all to be left aligned with the leftmost element. Then back to the alignment options. Do distribute vertically, and that spaces all three elements evenly. So from those elements being all over the place, like we very quickly have a nice looking form. And now I'm just going to move this text down a bit. And I could just like drag and position by eye if I wanted. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard to make some just fine adjustments. You can see it just moving down the page very slightly. And so now, like that's quite nicely laid out. Now the final thing we need to do with this panel, if we have a look at our demo page again, we can see that this one like has this like beveled edge effect. It's a bit transparent. You can kind of see the background a little bit through it, which is quite a nice effect. So to do this in Convertri, we have the container selected. We go to the element properties. We go to borders. We'll switch this toggle on so we're using the same radius for every border. and I'm going to put 20 in there. And if I just select off that element, you can see we now have that nice beveled edge. Now, I've built this page a few times, like I know that 20 is a good figure for it. But if you're not sure, then it's easy to experiment. You can just up the figure here. You can see it change on the page. You can, again, make your fine adjustments with these up and down keys. So it's easy to adjust it to whatever look that you like. Now, for the background, we will go to the background area of the properties panel. We'll change the background fill color to pure white. And this bar on the right, this controls the level of transparency of the panel. So if we drag it all the way down to the bottom, it's fully transparent. All the way to the top is fully opaque. We can just position it wherever we want that we think looks good. So I'm going to go about 0.7. So that's like 70% opacity. So the last thing we need on this page is the privacy policy link. So we'll just add that via a text element. So I'm just going to type that on, center my text. And to turn this into a link, I'm going to highlight the text and go to the hyperlink button in the text toolbar up here. And now we just add the link that we want this to go to. Now I'm going to add the link to Convertri's privacy policy. Obviously, if you're building a page like this for yourself, you would add the link to your own. I'm also going to switch on opening a new tab because not many people are going to click the privacy policies or contact pages on this kind of thing. But when they do, I definitely prefer them to have a new tab opened so your squeeze page is still there and available for them to easily navigate back to, rather than them being distracted and gone off somewhere else entirely. So we'll just hit save. And we now have the desktop version of the page pretty much done. So there's two things we've got to do here before it's fully complete. One of them is we've got to connect the form. We're going to do that after we have the thank you page live. And the second one is we need to check the mobile view to see how that looks. So to do that, we click on the mobile designer in the top right. And this is Convertri's automatic version of the mobile page. You don't have to keep this if you want. You can decide, you know what, I actually want that form at the top. I want the text at the bottom. So I'm just going to move that out. I'm going to select all these elements. I'm going to move those up. And I'll just stick that text in there. So you can rearrange your mobile view, and the desktop page itself, that hasn't changed at all, because the positions of these elements, they are completely separate. You can adjust the desktop page, you can adjust the positions of the desktop page, you can adjust the positions on the mobile page, and it won't affect the other view. I'm going to now rerun the automatic mobile conversion to put it back to what it was. Now, this page itself, I think it looks okay. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to take down the size of this text. This is currently using our default text scale size of 150%. And we use that size because that means that the text on a mobile screen and the text on a desktop screen is going to be pretty much the same size, to keep it easy to read. In this case, I actually want the mobile one a bit smaller. So this is another thing we can do through default styles. Again, we can do it at the element level. You can see if I've highlighted this text, then there is an option up here to change the default size. But I'm going to do it through default styles, so it adjusts all of the body text elements at once. So we'll go back to default styles through the page menu, And I'm going to take the font scaling down to 120%. We'll hit done. Now, when we return to mobile, you can see this text is a bit smaller, and the page itself has shrunk. Now, coming back to what Ken said earlier about the optimum width for a mobile page, as I said then, mobiles are a huge different range of widths. So there's not really a true optimum width for a mobile page. That is why a Convertri mobile page will be automatically scaled to the size of the screen. So whether your screen is whether it's a Note 10 Plus, whether one of those big phones that's almost a tablet, this is what will be shown on the screen when they navigate to this page. So exactly what you're seeing here. If it's a smaller phone, if it's I don't know, one of the older Galaxies, maybe like an S6, something like that, they will still see the exact same content. They'll still see the headline exactly here. They'll still see exactly this text, the form below it. It will just be scaled to the size of that screen. So it will just appear a bit smaller to fit on the screen on an S6 than it would on the Note 10 Plus. By doing that, that means you are always in full control of what is shown on the mobile screen. You don't have to worry about what if someone on a different size of phone sees something a bit different below the fold, as an example. It's always what you see here. Richard is asking, when you changed your default size, didn't that change the desktop as well as the mobile? Nope. That setting is specific to the mobile conversion. So if we go back to the desktop screen, you can see this is still sat at 16 point, same size it was. In fact, I can show you by going to the default text styles. We'll just put that back to, in fact, let's do something different. Let's take it all the way down to 30. So this is very, very small now. And the size on desktop, it hasn't changed at all. On mobile, it's going to look tiny. We're barely going to be able to read it. See, very, very small. But desktop hasn't changed. So we will just put that back to a sensible scaling size. And there we are. Okay, do we have any questions before we move on to building the thank you page? Let's take a swig of water while we wait for these to come in. It's a very warm day here, warmest day of the year. I hope you're all feeling a little more comfortable than I am at the moment. Dahlia, again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Dahlia is asking, do we need to configure the mobile separately? You don't need to. Convertri will provide an automatic mobile view for you, but you can adjust it if you want. Thomas is asking, what if you have an autoresponder form that you want to use? You can connect these form elements that we've added in Convertri to an autoresponder. I'll be showing you how to do that after we've made the thank you page. If you have a form, an actual bit of form code from a third party that you want to use rather than using Convertri's elements, then you can add that to the page as well. You'll do that via a custom HTML element, which you'll find in the toolbar down here at the bottom. So we can drag that on. And this just adds an area for that HTML. If we go to the element properties, click Edit HTML, you would take the form code that you've been provided, you'd stick it in here, hit save, and that will have the form appear in this HTML element. And you can then just put that on the page, same as you would any other element. Okay, let's move on to the thank you page. just save that first of all. And we'll close that page. Now, for the thank you page, I'm going to what I'm going to do as a base is I'm going to clone the opt-in page that we've just made. Reasons for doing that are, first of all, it lets me show you how cloning works, which is quite a useful feature. And you do that by going to More in those 3 dots, then hit Clone. Now I'll just change this to Thank you. We'll hit Clone, and this has created a full copy. So if we go into Edit Page, then we'll see it's copied all the elements, but it's not just copied the elements. If we go into a page, if we go into Default Styles, you can see it's also copied across the default styles we set. It's copied the links that have been set up. If we'd changed the mobile view around, that would also, like those changes that we'd made, would be copied across as well. The other reason that I've cloned a page rather than just built entirely from scratch again is I quite like when I'm building funnels like this, I quite like having the experience to be congruent. Like our user is going to, or our prospect is going to come to our squeeze page, they're going to opt in, and then they're going to be redirected somewhere else. And I find by making it very obvious that the pages are part of a set, like making them look fairly similar, then it just makes the prospect feel a lot more comfortable that they've not been sent somewhere entirely random. Like this is all it's all fully legit. It's all part of the experience. So what we're going to do to make the changes is I'm going to delete some of these elements because we're not really going to need them. Actually, I'm going to leave the body text one. We will have a bit of body text on there. But we don't need the your details are safe with us because they're not going to be signing in with anything. We're not going to need the form elements. So again, I'm just holding down Shift and clicking on these elements to multi-select them. We'll leave the headline as well. Now, with all these selected that we don't need anymore, I could hit the delete button up here, or I can just hit the backspace key on my keyboard, and that'll get rid of them. Now I'll change the text, and we'll just type into the page on this. Thanks for signing up. And we'll say, click the button below to download, let's go for the title, to download 7 top tips for slimming without starving. I'll just stick that up a bit. And we'll move the button up. And we'll make this panel a bit smaller because we don't need all that space. One thing I'm also going to do is I'm also going to change the background color of this button. And we're going to make that, we probably don't want to make it a red, that looks like danger. Let's have a green. Green is friendly, we like green. So I'll just move that down there a bit. Actually, remember we'll try the alignment options. We'll go for vertically contained to split them up. There's a bit too much space between them. And like I say, I'm literally just doing this by eye, just moving things around a bit until I get something I like. It's one of the reasons I quite like designing in Convertri, because you can do this. You don't need to be a good designer. You just need to be able to move things around. Okay, so I think that looks fine for the page. And again, we will check the mobile view. Now this time, Convertri is, because we cloned this from another page, Convertri is going to try and fit this new arrangement into the mobile view we just had. Yeah, no. Turns out that doesn't actually work the way I thought it would. I thought we were going to have to remobilize before it did that. Convertri is apparently smarter than I realized. Although that said, because there's not much content here, it is like this is showing a very small page. I would quite like it a bit bigger. So I'm gonna select the right element, then I'm going to move that down. I'm going to expand that background image to fit, and I'm just going to move this roughly to the center. And you can see I've got this pink snap line showing me where the when I've hit the center of that background. So final thing we need to do here is make it so clicking on this button does actually download our lead magnet, because otherwise our prospects are going to be quite annoyed. So to do that, we are going to click on this button. We're going to go back to the properties panel. And in button settings, we're going to change the mode. We're going to change it from submit to download. And now we are going to add the file. So we'll hit on select file. And again, you can see that like I've already got the file on this account. Again, I'm going to delete it just so you can see the upload process. So to upload a file, you can again just get it from your computer, drag it onto your screen, and Convertri will upload it. And you can put, like, you can use PDF files, you can use doc files. I think you can have MP4s or MP3s. You can have zip files. Basically anything as long as it's under 40 megabytes. So we will now select this and hit select. And you can see the file is now attached to the button. So when someone comes along, they will click the download now button, and this file will be downloaded. We also have the option of setting force download on click. And what that does is sometimes when you attach files like PDFs or doc files to buttons like this, the browser will attempt to open it rather than downloading it. So it might like try and open the PDF in the browser, and the user will still be able to download it when that happens. But you might not want that to happen. You might want it to be like downloaded directly without it being opened. And if you want that, then just switch on force download. I don't particularly mind, so I'm going to leave it switched off. So that'll just be whatever the browser default is set to, either open or download. Richard is asking, where can we store media on Convertri? Let's say the file that I used was just dragged on from the desktop, but you can store files that are being downloaded on pages just by dragging them on the way you just saw. So if I just click on select file, I could drag a file from my desktop and add it to Convertri's file storage system in here. In much the same way, images that you add will be saved in your media gallery, so you can use them across any other page later on. So now we are going to publish this page. And let's put it at, let's say, demo/thank you. Now you can see I'm putting in demo/thank you. The actual domain is added automatically. You can see the full URL at the bottom here. So neil.convertri.com/demo/thank you. If I just had demo in here, it'd be at neil.convertri.com/demo. If I didn't put anything in here at all, it would publish at neil.convertri.com. We're going to go with demo/thank you, and we'll hit publish. And now we've done that, the page is now live. you can see the view page icon up here. We can click that. And this is now live on the internet. You could actually navigate there. You could download that lead magnet. Ken's asking, what is the storage limit for the file library, if any? There's no fixed storage limit for the file library. It's basically covered under a reasonable use clause. So as long as you're not abusing it, you're going to be fine. The limit on the file size is 40 megabytes. So you can't upload, you won't be able to upload like a big video or anything like that, because that individual file will be too big. If you want to use a bigger file than 40 megabytes as a download on a button, you can still do that. You'll just need to use a different web hosting system for it. We use S3 for stuff like that. And to attach that, you would go into the button settings. Rather than download, you would change the mode to link. And in the link box, you would put the link to your file. So here you can see it's still going to the Convertri file system. Richard's asking, is that file library pulled up from clicking on the image button? The media gallery comes from the image button. So if you just drag an image on, then this will open up the media gallery, and you can drag images on there, and they will be stored in here. The file library we just saw, if we go into select the button, if we go into the properties panel and go to button settings, then by the download file link, you'll see an option here for select file. If you click on that, that will open that file selector. Walter's asking if you can add a short intro video to his homepage. Yep, that's something you can do. If you go into the media elements of the element toolbar, you'll see there is a range of video options here. Video is like our internal video element. So if you've got a self-hosted video somewhere, that you can stick the URL of that video in here and it will play in this video. We recommend using this one if you can, because we've optimized it, like much with everything else, we've optimized it to load incredibly quickly. If you have your video on somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo, then there are special elements for those. That we've got Vimeo and Wistia and YouTube. So you can drag a specific YouTube embed onto the page and add the link to your video in here. So it is as simple as that. Now we're going to return to our original opt-in page, and now we are going to set up the form. So what we'll do first is I just took that arrow from the new arrow button and I dragged it to the thank you page to draw this arrow between them. And this is telling Convertri that if a lead opts in on this page, we probably want it to go to this one. So it'll be able to more easily wire the forms up for us. Now we'll go into edit page. Now to set up our form, we click the Forms button in the top toolbar. And I'm going to attach this with an API. I'm going to use MailChimp. The reason I'm using MailChimp is because that's the autoresponder I've got connected to this account. But the process is the same for any one of these, and you can see there's quite a collection. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our list. Now we've got a standard sign-up list for these demos. Then we check the types for the fields. So all of these fields are fields that have been added to this list in the autoresponder. So these are areas where like data could be sent by Convertri. And we need to attach a type to the ones we care about for this page, which in this case is just first name and email because that's what we're connecting. So you can see first name here is already set as first name. Email is fixed as email. So with MailChimp, you can't change that. Which fields are fixed and which ones you can change is dependent on the autoresponder. So that will change depending on which one you're using. And then we'll hit next. Now, because we've drawn the arrow between the two pages, Convertri has automatically filled in the URL of our thank you page. We don't have to use that, like we can change that to anything we want. If we had connected multiple pages with the arrows, then we would see every one of those pages in this suggestions box. So we can easily pick which page we want it, which page we want it to connect to. The important thing here is that you need your thank you page published so Convertri can see the URL. So because we've already published that thank you page, it comes up here. That's why I did that and published, I built that and published it first, and then came back to wire up the form. So we'll now click done. Now we just need to check that the types are set properly on these fields. So to do this, we select the field, we go into form field settings, and you can see there is an assigned field type. And what we're basically doing here is matching. If you remember, when we set up the form, we set up types for these fields. So the first name autoresponder field has a type of first name here. So Convertri is going to look for whatever input on the page also has a first name type, and it'll put the info from that field in, or from that input into this autoresponder field. So we want to make sure they match up. So we want the first name in the first name field, so that's where we assign the type. We want email in the email field, and so that's where we assign the type there. Richard is asking, what is the difference between using an API versus using an autoresponder? Well, I mean, it's basically the same thing. These are APIs for autoresponders. It's just a way of connecting the autoresponder to the Convertri page. The difference between using like a bit of code that an autoresponder gives you, so you're using their form on a page rather than using Convertri's elements. First of all, it will be like the wiring up will be done for you if you're using the autoresponder field or the autoresponder form, because like it's entirely under their control. However, because you're doing that, like all the stuff like the redirect, like telling the app where to send people after they opt in, you need to do that in the autoresponder rather than doing it in Convertri, because if you're using the autoresponder form, we don't know about it. Like we don't know about that information. So the autoresponder needs to know where to redirect people rather than like doing the method I just showed you in Convertri. The end result though is pretty much the same. You'll still get, like people will still come to your Convertri page. They will still sign up via your form. They'll go into your autoresponder and they'll be redirected to the right place. Ken is asking, can you auto start video on page load? Yes, you can. If we just add one of our video elements again, you can see we have an autoplay toggle. So you can switch that on. You can choose whether to autoplay on desktop or to play on mobile, or both. You can also, there's also some additional settings, whether you only want them to autoplay once. So the first time someone reaches the page, the video autoplays, and after that, they have to choose to play it. You can choose to restart the video after they unmute it. We will automatically mute the video if the browser doesn't allow video to autoplay with sound. So you can set it so that like when they do click the video to unmute, it starts again. So there's a range of options like that you can use to customize the experience. Dave is asking, when using the page importer, what are the elements that usually do not get copied? If I import 2 pages and one is the privacy policy, will the links to page 2 still be working? Everything will, basically all the flat elements, like all the look of the page will be copied across. What we're not able to import is the functionality. So if there is like a video on the page, we can't import that. If there is JavaScript on the page, like if you click a button and a layer pops up, then we can't import that kind of thing. Links to pages, like they will import fine. Like any element that has a link on it, like on your original page, that link will be copied across like to your Convertri copy. If you're changing both pages, like if you're changing the destination of that link, then you'll need to update that on the page because it will copy across the original one. Richard is asking, where would we put the Facebook pixel? You can do that through the custom script section. So if you go to page, then go to custom scripts and add page script. You can add a name. You see, add in like Facebook pixel. The description is optional. It's just there so when you've got a list of your scripts, you can see what they've done if you haven't used like a descriptive name. And then you just enter the code in here. You can choose whether to put it in the body or the head. Generally, like whichever service is giving you the script will tell you which one of those to use. So just add your code in there, hit save, and that will then add the script to your page. Dave's asking, is there a feature to add social share buttons to a new page that's created? We don't have a direct social share button element. To be honest, it's one of the things that's been on the list for ages. We just haven't got around to actually building it yet. So I built a lot of stuff, but that is not part of it. That said, you can add images, so you can add like your Facebook icon, you can add your Twitter icon, you can add those as images to the page. You can add your share link to those images. So if I just stick a quick image on there, I will just put you on there. Obviously, this is not a social share icon, but the point remains the same. With the image selected, if you go into general properties, you can set the link. So you can just add your social share link in there, and that will then act as a social share link for that network. Okay, I was about to say that completes this demo, but it doesn't quite because we haven't published this page yet. So we'll put that at demo/opt-in, and we'll hit publish. Go to view page, and you can see the entire funnel is now live. So you could go to this page, you could opt in here, you'd be redirected to the thank you page, you'd be added like to our demo list, and on that thank you page, you'll be able to download that lead magnet. So that is the entire funnel live, built entirely from scratch. So the next thing I want to show you is a few little editor hacks. Dave's asking, what is the email address to request new features? You can send anything like that into support@convertri.com. I'll just type that into the chat for you. We also have a feature upvote board. where you can see there's like these are a list of feature ideas. Like some of them from us, some of them are from our users, and people have voted on like which ones they like best. So I'll just stick that in the chat as well. I believe social buttons is on there. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, crossed 100 votes now. There we are. So it is a pretty popular idea. So the like the features we build aren't entirely decided, like by what's top of the list here, mostly because like some features are a lot more work than others. But it is like a fairly big part in terms of what in terms of like how we decide where to focus the devs next. Okay, Richard is asking a few questions about domain names. I will go over those, but I'll show you the stuff in the editor first, because that can get a bit involved. Oh, thank you for the kind words, Karen. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you a few, I think, neat little hacks that just make using the editor a bit easier. So this is a fairly basic page. Yeah, it looks all right. It's designed for a cafe. And so I'm just going to show you how you can manipulate pages like this to make your life a little bit easier. Particularly if you're coming to it with a template. So the first thing I'm going to do is switch on the element outlines. And what this does is it puts these hot pink lines around every element on the page. So you can see there's two text elements here. You can see how this bit is built, that kind of thing. Now these won't show up on the live version of your page. If I hit publish now, you wouldn't see any of those hot pink lines. These are just to make it easier for you to see how the page is built. So, I mean, actually, the first tip is to have these switched on while you're building, because they are very useful to see what's being contained by what, especially when you're using transparent elements. So the first thing we're going to look at is a feature called Remove Whitespace. Actually, the first thing I'm going to show you is Shift Drag. I think that's a better one to start off with. Because in Convertri, you can move containers and all the elements within it move. So if I want to say I want to move this section down, I can just pick up this backing section. I can drag it and move it, and everything within it moves as well. Now that's fine, but it's not moving the rest of the page. So if I move this down, it's starting to go over the top of this section, which isn't really very good, because if we do it if we do these one at a time, we have to start at the bottom, move them all down. It's a bit of a faff. So to get around that, there is a shortcut you can use called Shift Drag. So cool because you hold down the Shift key and then you drag the element. And when you do that, not only does the element you're dragging move, everything below it moves with it. So you can see here, I've moved that element down and the rest of the page has come. I don't need to adjust every element individually. I just need to drag one thing and it just pushes all those elements down with it. You can do the same thing upwards. If you want to close white space, I can drag this up and you can see these elements at the bottom are all still attached. You can also remove sections just by having this backing section selected and hitting the delete key. So if you're using a template and there's a couple of sections you don't want, you can just select those backing bits and hit delete or hit backspace on your keyboard, and that'll get rid of them quickly. And that is where the remove whitespace feature that I mentioned earlier comes into its own. Because particularly with templates, if say you only want maybe the top section and the footer, you can delete a load of elements in the middle. And while you can, like, just shift drag up the ones you want, sometimes there can be quite a lot of space between it. So again, that's still a bit of a hassle. So to make this easy, click the top element. So in this case, like this about section. So we've just got white space here between that and the next section. Now click this button here. So third one along on the quick actions toolbar says remove white space above. We click that, and the rest of the page is just snapped right to the top. So it just closes that white space gap right up. Something else that is very useful to understand are the alignment options. Now, I went through these briefly during the demo, but they are very useful things for spacing elements out on the page, so you don't have to do it like entirely by eye. So if, as an example, let's make a few more of these headshots. So I'm going to clone these, and again, I can use the clone key up in the quick actions toolbar. There's also a keyboard shortcut for this. If I hold down the Alt key and drag the element, then I get a copy. This also works on contained elements. So if I take this container down here, if I hold down the Alt key and drag that, I get a copy both of the backing element and everything inside it. But what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to make, let's have one extra of each. And I want to get these nicely aligned, like evenly across the width of this page, which like with this many elements, doing that by eye would be quite a hassle. So we're going to use the alignment options to make it easy. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to add a panel, and we are going to stretch that across the width of our page. We are then going to send that to the back, and we're going to bring it forward just until like we can see the panel, but we can also still see all these headshots on top of it. And now we're just going to throw these in. Again, we're not trying to align these, we are just making sure that they are all contained. And we can check that if we want by just moving the backing panel, and you can see they all come with, so it's all contained and nice. Now we've got that there, I'm going to make the panel transparent. Doesn't have to be transparent, it'll work just as fine if there's light and opacity layer to it, but we don't really want that like grey background on the page, so I'm just going to whack that transparency slider all the way down. Now to sort out our alignment, with this panel selected, we're going to go into our alignment options again. And first we're going to go middle align. So that just puts the like vertical centers of each element all in line. And once again, backing panel selected. We want horizontally contained. And you can see that has spaced the elements nice and evenly within this container. So an even space within and an even space between the left and rightmost elements and the panel edge. And if we turn off the element outline so we can see how it looks on the page, that's just very nicely spaced in just a few clicks. So we'll just get rid of those extras. So that's a few like nice useful things to do on the page. I find those very useful when I'm building. But the single most useful thing is understanding how the mobile algorithm works, so you can build pages that just look pretty much how you want, like out of the box on mobile. And you can adjust them however you want. You can still adjust them however you want. But the closer you get it to what you want, like the less work you have to do, which is like, I just think that's better. I can see there's a few questions coming in as well. I will just finish this section of the demo and then I'll run through those. So to understand how to build a page like nicely on mobile, or to make it like work nicely on mobile, we need to understand how the mobile algorithm is working to begin with. So again, I'm going to switch on element outlines so you can see how all this page is put together. And now if we go to the mobile view, you can see this is like the automatic version on a page that's just kind of built like this one, where the elements are just kind of thrown on. And it's not really what we're after. Like you can see that these headings are separated from the text. The gallery looks all right, but these testimonials again are separated from our headshots. These social buttons down here, I mean, these actually look all right, like this. But if we go onto the desktop version, we can see that these are like nicely laid out horizontally, and it'd be quite nice to keep them like that on mobile as well. Like I think that looks better. Actually, we don't need that. We don't need that back in panel anymore, so I'll just get rid of that. Now, the reason Convertri has made the page like that is because of how it makes the mobile view to begin with. Basically, you can imagine it scanning across the page, like left to right and top to bottom, and as it finds elements, it adds them to the mobile page. So here, scans along like left to right, top to bottom. First element it hits is this one here, like the one that says the logo in it. And so if we go into mobile view, you can see that is the first one that it adds. Next, it scans across and it hits the "We are open," and that's the second one. Then next one it hits is the image, which like this far is absolutely fine. But then we get to this bit with these like text elements. And so Convertri is scanning across, and the first one it hits is bread, then it hits pastry, then it hits coffee, then it hits these paragraphs. And so that is the order it adds them on the screen, on the mobile view. And that's not really what we're after. But to make this easier, like to make it so you don't have to rearrange all this stuff yourself, we made it so Convertri understands containment. Like it understands that if elements are in the same container, they should be kept together. And to do this, so if we add a panel on here, just something like that. And again, I'll send that to back and just again bring it forward so we can see it. Now I'm going to leave the gray background on here so you can see the panels easier, but you don't need to. Like again, these can be entirely transparent and the exact same thing will work. So again, we'll send that to back, bring forward, and do the exact same thing again. With this coffee one. So send to back, bring forward, and in fact, I'll just make this one transparent just so you can see it really doesn't make a difference. And so now we have these text elements contained. So now Convertri is going to scan along. The first thing it's going to hit is this container. And so it will add to the mobile view everything that is within the container before moving on to the next one. So if we just go to the mobile view, you can see it's kept them all together, which is far more like what we're after. So we can do the exact same thing with these headshots. See, there's already a backing panel here or a container panel here, but it doesn't have the headshots inside it. So we're just going to drag those down so they are contained. And again, this is where the element outlines comes in really useful, because now you can see that the headshots are being contained as they should be. Same with this one. And again, I could use the alignment options to line these headshots up nicely. But at the moment, I'm just adding them on here so we can quickly demonstrate the mobile algorithm. Actually, maybe I will make them look nice. Because it really doesn't take very long. And apparently I am a perfectionist. So again, we're just going to select all those. And we're going to use the top align in this case just to bring them all up even. And we'll use bottom align on these text boxes. There, lovely. So once again, we go to the mobile view. And we can see that these have all been kept together. And we can use a very similar trick on these social buttons. This is, though, what we're going to see here is actually something that even quite a lot of advanced Convertri users don't realize is a thing. So again, we'll just send that to back, and again, bring forward, again, just so you can see the backing panel. Now, the key part here is that Convertri understands if a container is below a certain width, like if a container is below 320 pixels wide, then it doesn't have to rearrange the elements inside for the mobile view. You know, it will understand that will just fit on mobile perfectly fine, like as it is. So if we check the width of this image, the width of this panel, sorry. So we've got that selected. In the properties panel, we go to positioning, and you can see the width of this element is 194. So that's less than 320. If we go to the mobile view, they're all kept like exactly as they are on desktop. And I do mean like exactly. If we shift this one, let's say we shift these two over to the left, go back to the mobile view, it's just kept it exactly as we've put it. But again, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm going to use the alignment options to arrange them nicely. And we can see the difference here. If we widen the container, if we widen it, so 388, that's bigger than 320. Now, if we go to the mobile view, Convertri has needed to shrink the container to get it into, like to get it onto the mobile screen, and that means it's rearranged the elements within it, like it's reflowed them. We go back, we make it smaller again. So in this case, like 204. Again, less than 320. We go to the mobile view, and they've been kept exactly as they are. So those are a few little tricks that I think will make your using the editor, building your pages, and indeed like adjusting all the templates that you've got. Like that will make it, I think, an awful lot easier and an awful lot quicker to get the result you want. So that's everything I wanted to show you. I will go through now. I'll go through any questions that have turned up in the chat. Feel free to keep asking. I say I'm happy to hang around. Let's say basically until either you run out of questions or I run out of voice. Like whichever happens first is fine. So if there's anything you want to know, if there's anything you want to see again, like please do add it into the chat, and we will get to it. So the first thing to talk about is Richard's question from earlier, the different ways to create a domain. So I'll just close this. So the couple of different ways to add a custom domain in Convertri, if we go to account and then domains, I can't show you the full process here because I don't have a domain ready to set up, but I can like run you through like the different options. So adding a new subdomain, in this case, you can add like a new convertri.com domain, like if you've got slots for those. So if you just hit add, you can type in like whatever you want in here. And as long as that domain is available, then that will be added to your account. If you have custom domains set up, so if you've set up, like I know, richard.com, whatever, on Convertri, you'll also be able to select that domain in here and set up subdomains of that domain in the same way. I don't have any of those domains set up on this account, which is why it's only showing convertri.com. So adding Convertri to your domain, this is where you add like subdomains of existing sites. So if, for example, maybe you've got a WordPress blog on your current domain and you want to add your Convertri pages on like orders.domain.com, this is the one you use for that. So if you hit add, then it will give you a link to a guide. And in fact, I can show you that in the knowledge base as well. So there's a couple of full walkthroughs, each for the different types. Best place to start with domains is the one that is start here. I'll just stick that link in the chat box, because this will link out to the more detailed guides on all the different methods and explain which ones you should be using. But in general, if you like have a site already on your domain and you want to add your Convertri pages to a subdomain like sales.domain.com or orders.domain.com, then you use this one in the middle. If you have a fresh domain and you want to put your Convertri pages on like domain.com or www.domain.com, in that case, use this one on the right, which is setting up the domain on our name servers. And that will let you control the DNS through Convertri. To answer a couple of the other questions, you asked, Richard, do you need to buy a domain if you use an email opt-in form? No, you can put those on convertri.com subdomains, like they'll work fine. When you buy a domain name, should the MX records be set up for Convertri or in the Autoresponder? MX records are what you use if you want to receive email rather than send it. So if you've got domain.com and you want to receive emails to like mail@domain.com, in that case, you set up the MX records wherever your DNS is. So if you've set up our name servers, if you've used like the one on the right here, then you would set up the MX records in Convertri. And again, we've got a help article on how to do that. If you're using the CNAME method, if you're using like this middle one, so your Convertri domains are on something like orders.domain.com, then you would set up the MX records with your domain host, which would be somewhere like Namecheap or GoDaddy, like wherever you've got your main hosting. So I hope that answers your question. Francis is asking, where will I find the recording? The recording will be going in the knowledge base. So if we go to, if we just go back to help.convertri.com, then you'll see there is a section here called Getting Started Webinars. This one, like when the recording has been like rendered and processed, this one will be added to the list here. You can also see the replays of all the calls we've done in the past. So there's all of these are like from previous versions of this webinar. We also have other training webinars that we've run in the training webinar section. These ones are more like individual. Like the getting started ones are basically the same presentation every time. These ones are more like they're different topics. Like we've got one on actions and events. Actually, number 2 there is on connecting emails. Richard, you might find that useful. We've got an interview with a guy called Jim Rigney who has set up like a really successful Convertri agency. There's one I did last week about building like a quiz style opt-in page. So there's quite a collection there. Daly's saying I added a few horizontal lines on my page and I've had trouble clicking on one of them to remove it. Any suggestions on how to click it when I can't see it? That's another thing that the element outlines is very useful for. So if we just go back into one of these demo pages. So if we add like a divider line on here, so we've got our horizontal line, and see that it's, like you say, it's not very it's not very wide. If you switch on the element outlines, then you'll see you've got this hot pink bar, so you can see a bit more easily where you've got to click. And then you can use the delete key to delete that. If you're having trouble clicking on it at all, one little hack for getting around that is you can add a backing panel. So in this case, like we just want this panel that's like got the element inside it. So I'm going to send that to back. So again, if I move that around, you can see the divider line is moving with it, so you know it's contained. And then if you delete the backing panel, it will delete everything that's within it as well. So that might be an easier way of getting it off the page. And yes, Richard, the white space button is very, very useful. I use that an awful lot. Richard's saying, I tried the image align option, but when I tried to align the images disappeared. Any suggestions? To be honest, not really, because it's quite hard to see. It's quite hard to tell what's going on without actually being able to see what you're looking at. It's possible if you selected one of the alignment options, that's more like maybe if it was bottom align and you had a larger element selected, like where the bottom was a fair way off the screen, it would have pushed the elements down to the bottom there. That's possibly it. But if you're having trouble, then do post in the Facebook group or get in touch with support, and someone will be able to have a look at your page and see exactly what's going on. Obviously, it's quite hard to diagnose that kind of stuff when I'm staring at someone else's screen, or when I'm staring at my screen and not yours, more to the point. Russ is asking, will you show how mobile works with those images? I'm sorry, Russ, I think the presentation has moved on a bit, so I'm not sure what images you're referring to. Do you mean the images that we were aligning across the page? Richard's saying, so I've created my lead magnet and opt-in form. Thank you, and download pages. Now I want a website in the same style and look. Do I use Convertri or something like Thrive Themes? Well, I mean, I would definitely say use Convertri, but honestly, use whatever you find easiest. You can build websites in Convertri. A lot of people have. In fact, we have. This is our Convertri website. It is built entirely in Convertri. So this is it's got our menu element at the top, and we're using the shared headers and footers. So this is building a website in Convertri is something that's definitely possible to do. So if that's if that's what you find easiest, then yes, please use us. Ken's saying, if I don't want Powered by Convertri to show, how do I change that at account level? So I don't have to remember to turn it off at the funnel level. To do that, we'll just go back to our account. So you can control that badge through the affiliate section, and it's up here because it is an affiliate link. Like if you've got that badge on your page, someone clicks it, they go to our website. If they then sign up, then like you will get 30% of what they pay, like until they, like for as long as they keep the account. So that's why it's in here. But to do this, you can see there is a option here, show powered by Convertri badge on your pages. So if you want it taken off, you can just untick that, hit save, and when you republish your pages, the badge will no longer be there. You can also change location. Like by default, it's on the bottom right. You can have it on the bottom left if you prefer, like if you've got something else you want there. So that is where you adjust that bit. Take another quick swig of water. Richard's asking if I used like a subdomain.convertri.com, how do I set up the email for Convertkit? You can attach a Convertkit form to the page exactly the way I did with MailChimp on this. Like I was using a convertri.com subdomain. So if we just go back to the page. So if we go to our form section and in the autoresponders, you can see Convertkit like is one that we've got like an API for. I don't have Convertkit attached to this account, so I can't walk you through the whole thing, but it does work like exactly the same as MailChimp does by selecting the list, assigning the fields, and then just choosing the thank you page. So that will work like exactly the same. Marcy is asking, can we use LeadsHook with Convertri? I haven't tried LeadsHook myself, but for pretty much any service like that where like it's something you either embed or a page or add a script to a page, most of them work fine with Convertri. If they are embedding on a page, then you can use the custom HTML element from the Elements toolbar. So again, drag that on, click Edit HTML, add the code they give you in there, hit save, and then like the content will just appear in that HTML element. And you can adjust the size in this the same way you adjust the size on anything else, like if it's a big embed. If it's a custom script that you're adding, if you go into the page menu and hit custom scripts, add page script, and then just give it a name and then add the code you're given in there. Like hit save, republish the page, and then it will be there and live. Dahlia, if you've turned on the outlines but you still can't click it, then I would suggest using the like adding a panel over the top of it and sending it to back, and then just deleting that panel when it's contained. That's probably the easiest way of doing it. Okay, good to know. Russ's thing was answered already. Fantastic. Anthony's asking, does the website have to be hosted through Convertri? The pages that you build in Convertri, they will need to be hosted through Convertri, like that's what it's designed for. But you don't need to have your entire website hosted with Convertri. You can have like WordPress on your main domain and Convertri set up on a subdomain. Quite a lot of people do that, or indeed vice versa. Like you can have Convertri on your like main domain. You can have Convertri on like www.anthony.com, and then have like a WordPress blog on something like blog.anthony.com. And again, in fact, that's the way we do it. If you go to blog.convertri.com, then you'll find like a WordPress blog there, because Convertri is not really built as a blogging tool. WordPress is just better for that. So that's what we use. Ken, if you are a Convertri member, like if you're in Convertri, then you do have an affiliate link for it. It'll just be like automatic in your account. Like I said, the affiliate link on the badge isn't something you have to enable. It's just there automatically. Not everyone wants it on their pages, which is why we give people the option to take it off. But there's you will always get credit if someone does click that badge and comes through and signs up to Convertri through that site. Oh, I see. Richard's asking, I was really asking, how do you set up an email when you didn't buy a domain? You just used subdomain.convertri.com. No, in that case, if you want to be able to receive mail to your domain, you will need a specific domain for that. You can't receive mail to a subdomain.convertri.com. You can still use Convertkit to receive and send receive leads and send emails, but you'll need your own domain to receive email to it. That's good to know, Dahlia. Thanks very much. Okay, are there any further questions? Oh, you've almost got me all the way through my pint of water this time. Okay, cool. That seems to be it at the moment. I'll hang around for another couple of minutes just in case anything else comes in. But in the meantime, thank you very much for turning up. I hope you found it useful. I hope this helps you get started a bit faster. If you do need more help after this, then like I say, you can email support@convertri.com. You can join the Facebook group if you're not in there already. In fact, I will add a link to that in the chat box as well. So that there, facebook.com/group/Convertri. That is it's the Convertri Facebook group. That's where a lot of our users hang out there. I think there's in the region of 5,500 people in there now. I'm in there quite a lot. Andy's in there sometimes as well. So are quite a few members of our support team. And of course, there's a lot of other people who use Convertri there too. So if you've got a question on how to use the app, pretty frequently, another Convertri user will answer it before we even get there. So it's quite a good way of getting answers quickly. Yes, Dahlia, very good to stay hydrated. Certainly on days like today. It is warm here. Karen is saying, I wasn't able to follow your cursor when you got the arrow to point to a different element. Do you mean pointing the arrows between pages? If that's it, then you do that. I'll just add an arrow between these two pages so you can see how it works. If you click on the arrow icon here, you see it says new arrow there. So we just click the button, and now we've got this arrow we can drag wherever we want. So we'll just drag it onto this coffee page, click that, and that will add the arrow between the two pages. So there's now a simple link between them. And you can remove the arrow. If you mouse over, you'll see it goes red. You get this little X. Click that, and that will take it away. How would I use that with a simple website to connect different pages? The arrows here are for basically these are for showing Convertri the leads flow. If you want to connect different pages, then the easiest way to do that, if we just go into the page again. So you can do it through a menu element, you can do it through text elements. You can see how a link is added like to a basic text element. Here, like we've just selected the text, we've added a hyperlink directly to it. So you can add like the URL of your page or the URL your page will be at if you haven't published it yet. You can just add those directly in, and then they will work as navigation between your pages. You can also use our menu element. So you can add like different items to the menu. Like that. And you can set up links in there. So you can set a link to whatever page you want. And you can do the same thing for all the other menu items. There's also like a range of formatting options you can use, because obviously like that default is fairly plain. But you can adjust the, like with anything else, you can adjust the font types. You can adjust the color. You can change the menu skin entirely if you want to be something a bit different. So that's probably the easiest way of doing it. Yeah, cool. Good to know that helps. John's saying would love to see a webinar page that could connect to Amazon S3. If you mean playing the video off S3, then that's definitely something we can do. Although I don't have like an actual webinar page to hand, but I can show you how to attach an S3 video to the video element. So we'll just add a video onto the page. So again, that was going to media and then video. This adds our own like Convertri player. It's going to be a webinar page, so that's going to be pretty big. Now, if you add the S3 link, or the URL, I should say, of your video file, just stick it up there in video source. That will automatically be pulled in to this video element. And so you can connect it that way. Cool, thank you. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, that looks like it. Once again, thank you very much for coming along. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it fun. I know I did. Always like showing people around Convertri. It's become a bit of a passion project. So, like I said, this call is being recorded. It'll go in the knowledge base with the rest. The replay will be live probably. I mean, it'll definitely be live by Tuesday. To be honest, it'll probably be live by the end of the week. And there will be a link to it in next week's update email. So keep an eye out on your inbox. Cool. So yes, thank you for coming. Thank you everyone who is still here. Have a fantastic rest of the day.